Hello, fellow citizens and residents of St. Kitts Nevis. Today, I am joined by two honorable gentlemen. First, on my immediate right, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas and our former Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Joseph Edmeade. We are here today to have a chit-chat about the Prime Minister's lecture series. It is our 25th anniversary of this event, and we are celebrating our 40th anniversary of independence. It is a moment to pause, to reflect on what this event is about, and we want to bring to the attention of our citizens what exactly is the Prime Minister's lecture series about. These gentlemen, let me add, they are here because this idea was first introduced by the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas. So let us begin. And we would like to find out from you what led to the whole introduction of this event.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Atan, for firstly inviting us to be part of this very important, I would say for now, documentary, as we try to bring back to mind and of course to memory exactly what took place when the Prime Minister lecture series was first introduced. We took government back in 1995. Of course, we were eternally grateful for those who would have gone before us in government, those who would have gone before those who would have attained independence back in 1983 under the Right Excellent Sir Dr. Kennedy Simmons. And we wanted to make sure that as we move along in time with the independence that had been attained, that there had to be something that would continue to inspire our people in not only celebrating what we would have achieved, but to inspire us in going further and into the future. The idea was to ensure, in particular, that our young people who had achieved, who had excelled, those who were at home, those who had gone abroad in universities and colleges abroad, those who had mastered the art of learning, those who had acquired knowledge, those who were making significant contributions in the advancement of life of people where they were or where they are here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And the idea was to inspire, to motivate, and to bring our young people to full realization that the future was wide in their hands, that the future would be to a large extent what they would have made of it, and thus to impart and share the knowledge, the achievements with others who would come after them.
So we have what was the motivation behind it. And it sounds very much to me like we were making connections with persons in our diaspora who were successful. Now to Mr. Edmeade, how did we go about selecting these persons?
It was a very large discussion taking place. At the time, we were beginning to see challenges coming from a segment of our young people, problems, and the whole idea was, how do we motivate them? How do we redirect their minds? And so we think long and hard, and we discussed that one way is to try to inspire, showcase nationals who are abroad, who have made success, bring them home to see if they can help in motivating, rechallenging the energies of our young people. And so we went about selectively choosing people who we think had an idea to inspire our young people. And we sort of selected them to come home and speak to them, using the office of the Prime Minister to finance such an exercise.
Okay. And therefore, that led to the introduction of this event, the Prime Minister Lecture Series in 1998. Would you care to share some memories over the years? It's been 25 years. We've had quite an array of speakers, some very accomplished, some upcoming young professionals who have returned home to share with us.
To a large extent, we chose persons based on what was current in terms of where the state was at that particular time. For example, we found that a lot of our young people had started to become somewhat restless, that law and order became one of those challenges that we felt that if our young people were not to continue along the path of law and order, what would befall us as a people and as a nation. So it was to some extent what it is that we were focusing in at that particular time. We were talking a lot about bringing our state to the point where information communication technology, engineering, and so forth would be the important stepping blocks to achieve the developmental standards that we wanted for our people. And we went into the diaspora, found people who had achieved and excelled in those areas, brought them back, presented themselves in lectures, motivated our young people, and thus consolidate the continuing step forward as building our nation, not only for the present, but for the future.
Okay. Mr. Edme, do you have any memories you care to share?
Yes, because as I said, it was part of a way of motivating our young people. And not only did we go for the law and order, but for the academians, the young people, we were saying to them, the opportunities are there for you. Go abroad, educate yourself, come back. And we identified areas that they can go, studies, because a lot of the persons that we were bringing home had left here, gone to the College of the Virgin Islands, onto the mainland states, and made themselves professionals in every field.
That brings me to the point as I reflect on the theme, growing sustainably, developing maturely, and building resiliency. And so in that vein, I'll ask a question, how do you see it going forward? How can we sustain it and make it into something more? Any ideas you'd like to share?
It has to continue to challenge and motivate people. We are at the point where this government has been talking about innovation and entrepreneurship. And that is where I think the choice of young Psyche is a good one in terms of when she left here. I think she went and did a first degree in economics, I believe. And she was so good. She excelled to the point where she went straight on to do a PhD from her first degree. And now she's branched off into an area that...
a dynamic area, fashion.
Exactly.
Fashion.
That's what I'm saying.
Fashion.
And that's what we're talking about today, motivating our young people in being creative, young entrepreneurs, start from scratch, and simply use your imagination, use your particular skills that you have, and excel and lead to the next generation.
Yes, so we can still pick out the issues from over the years from the speakers, imagination, using your skills, finding your space, grabbing every opportunity so that we can inspire our Kittitians and Nivitians out there. I am Sharon Rattan, Chair of the Prime Minister Lecture Series on the Independence 40th Organizing Committee, and I am joined today by the Right Honourable Dr. Denzil Douglas and former Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Joseph Edme.
arrival of Her Excellency Dame Marcella Liebert, GCMG JP Governor General. It's Nevis. At this time, the national anthem will be played. We remain standing as Miss Tiana Bory ushers in the presence of the Lord.
Pleasant evening. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we bow before you this evening, oh God, in honor of your goodness, oh God, because you've been mightily good to us as a nation. As we celebrate 40 years, oh God, we've seen the strides that we've grown, oh God, and we pray that your continued blessings will continue to fall on us, mighty God. We pray, Heavenly Father, as we've gathered here for this proceedings, oh God, that the information disseminated, mighty God, will be such, oh God, that will thrust our nation another 40 years. We pray, Heavenly Father, for the seed, oh God, that will be planted to our nation's youth, oh God, and they will take it, oh God, and take it so far, oh God, that our nation will be bound to prosper. We ask, Heavenly Father, that you'll be with us now and forevermore. Amen and amen.
Kindly be seated. Your Excellency Dame Marcella Liebert, GCMG JP, Governor General of the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis, Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis, Honorable Lanine Blanchett, Speaker of the National Assembly, Justice Patrick Thompson Jr. and his wife, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, Senior Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Trade, Industry, Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Economic Development and Investment, and former Prime Minister, other members of the Federal Cabinet of St. Kitts and Nevis, Honorable Mark Brantley, Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition and the Premier of Nevis and Mrs. Brantley, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Member of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition and former Prime Minister, other members of the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis, other honorable members of the Nevis Island Administration and their spouses, the Right Excellent and Right Honorable Dr. Sir Kennedy Simmons, KCMG, National Hero and former Prime Minister, and Lady Simmons, members of the Diplomatic Corps and Consular Corps, as well as the accredited chief representatives of regional and international organizations, Pastor Tiana Bory, pastor of the Molyneux Wesleyan Holiness Church, permanent secretaries, and other senior government officials. Chair of the Independence 40 Committee, Dr. Marcus Natter and Ms. Vera Galloway. Other members of the Independence Committee: Ms. Psyche Southwell, featured speaker of the Prime Minister's Lecture Series. Family members and guests of the featured speaker: Reverend Damian Hughes, winner of the theme for the Independence 40 competition. Representatives of civil society, teachers and pupils, members of the diaspora, viewers and listeners via various media platforms, members of the media, other specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, warmest welcome and good evening. We gather for the 25th edition of the Prime Minister's Lecture Series as we usher in 40 years of independence. Growing sustainably, developing maturely, building resilience. I start with some questions so as to ensure that you are prepared justly for the experience you are about to have. Why are you here? What is Independence 40 to you as a unique citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis? The Prime Minister's Lecture Series. What is this? Why have we come together? And what does it mean for you to be present at the Prime Minister's Lecture Series at the 40th celebration of independence under the theme, Growing Sustainably, Developing Maturely, Building Sustainably? Ponder. Why? I continue, and I ask you to not sit here passively. Do not just be here to be here. Think, stretch your mind, participate mentally, for a mind once stretched can never return to its original form. We are here to be changed, and we will. The Prime Minister Lecture Series is a strategic tool of the Office of the Prime Minister used to fundamentally and at its core inspire the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at a time when we commemorate our independence. Today, at the 25th initiative of this demonstration, we appreciate the intangible positive efforts of the Office of the Prime Minister. Proverbs 29 and verse 18 tells us that a people without vision will perish, and this activity here today lets us know that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has a vision, and we shall not perish. What happens here in our land of beauty is not happenstance. 1983 was not a coincidence. At this particular moment, as we reflect, we acknowledge the integral role that inspiration plays in the journey, at the keep at it, at the goings and comings. You are here to be inspired. As we progress, we must continue to appreciate that something of cataclysmic potential continues to brew in our fair land. The conceivable advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis must always be presented as something glimmering and heated and brimming, and that is what we are here to inculcate and to foster, a brimming, bright future for St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, I ask you, why are you here? I posit that you are here to be a part of the manifestation of inspiration. And as you reflect on the culmination of whatever St. Kitts and Nevis means to you, ask yourself, how will you go forward? How do we traverse and travail through the idiosyncrasies and nuances that categorize the times we live in? I want to be clear that to be inspired is to be filled with the urge or ability to do or feel something, especially that which is creative or abstract. A desire and an impulse is a strong feeling or wanting to have something or to wish for something to happen. As you sit here, I charge you to be inspired. Want something as you sit here. Leave here wanting something. Want something for you, want something for your own, and want something for St. Kitts and Nevis. You are not here by chance, and you are here to spur on your wanting for St. Kitts and Nevis. This lecture series brings from across the diaspora successful learned sons and daughters of the soil to give back, to demonstrate for those of us on the rock what hope in practice looks like. The diaspora affords us an opportunity to blend and impart innovations by being exposed to the outside, sifted through the unique lens of home. This is valuable. This is access. This is transformation and opportunity. What you experience here today is growing sustainably, developing maturely, and building resilience. I apologize. It is looking after your own, given the benefit of experiences and in spite of difficulties. What we celebrate here is hope for the future. Prepare yourself to be inspired. If you did not know why you are here, you know now, and it is to be inspired. To continue on this strain, I invite Mrs. Patricia Martin to introduce our guest speaker, who will undoubtedly take us on a journey to inspiration.
Good evening, all. Your Excellency, please allow me to adopt the protocol that has been established, except to acknowledge the presence of Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence True. It is with a deep sense of pride that I introduce an accomplished, yet humble citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis as our featured speaker this evening, Psyche Southwell. Psyche received her foundational education at the then Epworth, now Maurice Hillier Memorial School under the principalship of Mrs. Veronica Phillip. She then attended the Bastia Junior High School and later the Bastia High School, where she elected to pursue and focus on foreign languages, business and economics, and math. After graduating from the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College in 1997, she worked briefly at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank before departing in January of 1998 to pursue studies at Midwestern State University. She completed graduate studies at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Psyche is a customer-facing senior software engineer in a company which is the industry leader for providing solutions and technologies for indoor location tracking, an area called RTLS, real-time locating systems. She works directly with her clients, hence the term customer-facing. These include the largest health system in the US, and this is to ensure that their software solutions address critical business challenges, such as swiftly tracking nurses, patients, and medical equipment in mega hospitals. Her journey to this position includes a stint as a university professor, where she taught graduate courses in the areas of social policy and research. She also served as a resident scholar with the federally funded University of Kentucky Center for Poverty Research and Washington University Center for social development. While working in academia, Psyche started the blog and digital media platform called Economy of Style because she wanted to offer opportunities for women to move beyond the typical academic uniform and to do so mindful of cost. Her multimedia content earned global attention, landed her on the cover of Red Book magazine, and garnered the partnership of Fortune 500 companies like Target, Dove, and J.Crew. Psyche credits her high level of motivation to her roots in St. Kitts, where she developed a profound interest in problem solving. Her desire to solve problems has instigated critical career pivots that have proven to be timely and very successful. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us welcome our featured speaker for this evening, Psyche Southwell.
14,610 days, 2,087 weeks, 480 months, or as we've been celebrating all September long, 40 years of independence. It is with great pride that I say happy, happy 40th independence to the beautiful and resilient people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, I would like to adopt the protocol that has preceded me. Her Excellency Marcella Liebert. I would also, of course, love to acknowledge the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew, in whose position this entire lecture series is held. And if I were to add anything, I would say to every single person within the sound of my voice, I am humbled by the opportunity to present you at this lecture series tonight. Any opportunity I have to be of service to the people of my beloved St. Kitts and Nevis, you're no idea. Mrs. Martin, oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that very generous introduction. Later, y'all, when you hear me talk about the first-rate education I had right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, I'm talking about teachers and educators like Mrs. Martin. Educators like that who went above and beyond their call of duty to ensure that I was prepared for examinations and life, because that's what the purpose of education truly is, right? And if I had to share my dream for St. Kitts and Nevis, it would be that every single child in our federation feels as seen and as uplifted as Mrs. Martin and my educators made me feel. I'm going to age myself here and say this because it's what, almost 3 decades? And she's still here tonight to uplift me. Where would I be? Where would I be without that? And that's my dream, that every single child in St. Kitts and Nevis, regardless of who child they be, right? That they feel as seen as and uplifted as Mrs. Martin and my other educators have made me feel throughout my life. Now, as a former educator myself, I am intimately aware that the window of opportunity I have to keep your attention tonight, now that I have it, is going to fight to close, right? And we don't want that. So I'm going to make a single promise to you tonight that I have 4 points to make. Just 4 points to make tonight. And I'm going to stay on track to do just that. I'm telling you exactly what they are right now, right? I'm going to focus. Good. My tech guy got my stuff right back, right? I'm going to focus on these 4 points. It's the only thing I want to talk to you about. If I want you to remember anything at all tonight, it is those 4 things. I'm going to break them down. I'm going to weave in some stories from my personal experience. I'm going to tie them because they tie very directly to St. Kitts and Nevis because my roots are here. And I take that with me everywhere that I go. Of course, to make sure that you are still with me throughout, I would like to do a little bit of a pulse check between each section to make sure you are with me, right? I'm going to tell you exactly how that's going to go, and then we're going to do a little bit of a test run. Is that okay with you all? Good. That's my people. I know my people are going to have my back tonight. All right. So I am going to say how many years you are going to say 40 strong. Look, somebody done ready. I'm then going to say next up, and your answer is 40 more. Can we give that a try? Yes. How many years? Next up. Okay then, Honorable Prime Minister, I think they sound ready? Okay. All right, my first point tonight is to let our size be our strength. We often use the expression, we small, but we taller. We small, but we taller. And ain't that the truth, right? But we often use that expression to evoke this idea that despite being small, we're strong and we are mighty. But I want to posit tonight, what if our superpower was in fact the fact that we are small? And I'm going to say that again. What if being small was actually our superpower? The last university I taught at had a population that was larger than the combined population of St. Kitts and Nevis. And on any given day, if university officials wanted to reach everybody, they could. It was plausible. So why can't we? Why can't we reach everybody? The answer is we can. We can ensure that in St. Kitts and Nevis, every student can pursue a quality education regardless of the circumstances they were born into. We can ensure that every student can sit a foreign exam and acquire the learning materials to do so at no cost to them. How do I know that? I benefited from a program from that. Just like that. I benefited from a program like that. I stand here before you as the beneficiary of a program like that. My peers benefited from a program like that. Because I was in school with our Prime Minister, I know he benefited from a program like that too. And how is it that a country like ours could provide a progressive policy like that? It's not easy, but it's made easier because of our smaller population. We can reach everybody. Poverty remains a prevalent problem in St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is one of those social issues that, despite the fact I don't work in the field directly anymore, it is still near and dear to my heart. And in my opinion, the inequalities and injustices perpetuated by poverty are our greatest threats to growth, development, and sustainability. The very theme that is anchoring our entire independence for year 40. The entire theme. During my career, I had the privilege to work alongside noted poverty scholars, people like Mark Rank, people like Michael Sheridan. I got to work in an environment deeply influenced by not one, but 2 Nobel Prize winners in economics, in Douglas North and Amartya Sen. what can I say? I went to a bougie school that gave me a lot of access, so I embraced it. It was through my membership, right, with Amartya Sen's Capability Society that I finally found and embraced an understanding of poverty that connected the dots for me. It connected the dots for me because it made sense in the world that reared me. It made sense in the world that reared me. And one of the things I left and take with me in every field, you hear me do a lot of things, everything that I do is how we understand the problems. And hear this, the way that we define problems directly shape the solutions that we put forward. And I'm gonna say that again. The way that we define problems directly shape the solutions that we advance. And I'm gonna say this, policies and programs often fail, and they don't fail because they are not good ideas. They don't fail because they're not well-intentioned. They fail because they don't actually match or address the problem at hand. And if we continue, my friends, to define poverty solely as a lack of income or a lowness of resources, every policy will fail. Every anti-poverty program will fail to eradicate poverty if we're only looking at resources. We small, but we tall. We in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis have the ability to explore the unique circumstances and vulnerabilities of the Kittitian and Nevisian experience, and hence advance policies that actually take that experience into consideration. I always keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening here in our federation. And I have one caution to make, one caution, and is that we ought to be cautious when considering the mandates and directives of external institutions whose one-size-fits-all policies don't address our uniqueness. So how can they address our problems? Rather than take outside, generalized approaches, we can develop homegrown, specialized solutions that reach everybody. We can be known as the Caribbean Federation that reaches everybody. We can join a handful of countries in the world that what? Reach everybody. We can reach everybody because our small size is in fact our strength. Time for the pulse check, okay? How many years? Next up. Okay, you're still with me, you're still with me. So I'd like to go to my second point, which is to fashion new identities. We're leaving poverty to deal with something a little bit lighter, but still important, okay? So in 2007, while beginning my academic career, I started a business called Economy of Style to offer women new ways to think about how to express their personal styles. I thank my grandmother, Gladys Southwell, and yes, and my mother, Clytie Southwell, who taught me, and very early, that style can literally change the way you view the world, and in turn, how the world views you. Literally change views. So I built a business then to fill a gap. And what was that gap? Back at that time, mainstream fashion media, the magazines were ignoring Black women's bodies. When I looked at the body of that work, I did not see people that looked like me. I didn't see topics and products talked about that addressed the natural kink of my hair. And that was a problem for me. So I filled a gap by launching Economy of Style. And the fact that real women had budgets wasn't even being considered at the time also deeply disturbed me. So Economy of Style, you can say, emerged almost as an anti-magazine or an alternative to a magazine, so to speak, simply covering the things that mainstream media refused to do at the time. And surprise, surprise, it attracted an audience. First, hundreds of women, then thousands of women, then 10,000s of women, then hundreds of thousands of women, demonstrating that, in fact, our content that covered us, had value. And guess what happened? The magazines came to me. The magazines came to me, and one call out I would love to mention about every piece of earned media I have ever earned. While it said Psyche Southwell is from St. Louis, it always says she's from, originally, St. Kitts and Nevis. Listen, that wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. When I was growing up here, right, as a high performer in school, I was taught that to be successful, you had to choose from among three career paths. And I probably don't need to tell anybody in here what those are. Doctor, lawyer, or work in a bank. Naturally, I went into banking. I worked first at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in the statistical unit. If any of my ECCB peeps are in the house, what's up? I went to school and I studied economics because at that time, I had accepted that my future was going to be in banking. The more I learned, however, about economics, the more I actually wanted to apply these concepts to non-traditional topics. Hence, my blog is called Economy of Style. It's the economics of fashion. Learning is to be applied to all facets of our lives. And that's exactly what I did. So get this. I moved from economics to writing about fashion. Writing about fashion made me train to become a photographer. Shout out to our speaker from last year, Mr. Professor Batiste. Mastering digital content curation helped me to develop a brand that subsequently attracted brands. Target came, Saks Fifth Avenue came, J. Crew came. It's funny that we're standing in the Marriott ballroom tonight. Marriott Global is my highest paid campaign ever in my career. If I told you how much they paid me to shoot and curate 8 images at their Le Méridien hotels. So if you're ever in one of those hotels and you see one of the little catalogs, you might see your Sister of the Soil featured right in there. Here's why I'm sharing all of that. Here is what I have learned. The old identities that we were given don't have to be the ones that we're stuck with forever. The old identities that we were given don't have to be the ones that we're stuck with forever. I hear that the focus of this is really to focus on our young people, and I really want them to hear that one. I prepared myself to make unexpected journeys throughout my entire life, and St. Kitts and Nevis can do the same. St. Kitts and Nevis can do the same. In my lifetime, imagine the audacity. St. Kitts and Nevis was described in the textbooks I read as a third world country. Third world country. Today, I have heard stories that we're one of the most dangerous places in the world. But guess what? The things we are defined as, we don't have to accept. I'm going to say it again, right? The things we're defined as, we don't have to accept. As a nation, we should continue to identify gaps that need to be filled. This administration launched a Ministry of Creative Economy. And my, how that made my heart sing. Because that fills an important gap. Hence, is going to be crucial for fashioning new identities. Let me say that again. This ministry is crucial for fashioning new identities. We have more entrepreneurial makers, clothing, skincare, beauty, fragrances, home goods. What all of these things mean is that young people, unlike when I was young here growing up, that young people will no longer see only 3 options for what it means to make important contributions to our federation. St. Kitts and Nevis then should be mindful of the many ways that we are defined by the world, but we should also consider fashioning other possibilities for our citizens. We should fashion other possibilities for our citizens. You ready? How many years? Next up? Fantastic. Good. So my third point, and I'm staying on course tonight, my friends. I have 4 things to share with you tonight. The third one is to embrace high-tech problem solving. During the pandemic, I decided to fashion yet another identity for myself. I moved from the world of fashion to the world of technology. Can somebody say pivot? That was the word, right? Here's how I got there. I learned that software programming involved creativity and problem solving. And I'm proud to stand here as one of the few women to ever lead this lecture and say this, in my opinion, and I'm sure the women in the audience will agree, women are especially good at both of those things. So imagine how distraught I was when I also learned that Black women, women that look like me, account for less than 1% of the people engaged in that kind of high-tech problem solving. That offended, my friends, every sensibility in my body, every single one of them. So what did I do? I rolled up my sleeves. I did the study, the training, and the preparation to become a software engineer. And for the students that are sitting here tonight, I want to tell you, when I started college, I had barely ever used a computer. And now I build the kinds of applications that people are using on computers. I also want to add that 2 of the jobs I have held since I trained formally in college did not even exist when I was in college. How would I know how to dream for them? How could I make sure I was prepared for those? Today, I get to take on some very exciting, large challenges that require both creativity and high-tech problem solving. And if you would indulge me for a minute, I would like to share some of those examples of the work that I do. Once, a company needed me to automate a process that matched thousands of travel nurses to hospitals that needed them the most during the height of the pandemic. We remembered what that time was like. So the poor staff of this agency that was responsible for sending travel nurses to hospitals that needed them were overwhelmed by the demand. So what did they ask me to do? They asked me to build an automation that was delivered via a chatbot that deflected all of those questions and automated the matching of those nurses to the hospitals that needed them. When that company wrote a testimonial about that work, they say I saved them 10,000 hours a week. Another company, a mega university this time, needed me to build a workflow that automated critical interventions for students
at friction points that they said were so disruptive that when students didn't receive those interventions, they were dropping out. The creation of that workflow allowed for the retention of thousands of students because they received those interventions automatically when needed. These days, I spend most of my days working in hospitals, sometimes on site, but mostly virtually. You might be alarmed to learn that a leading cause of death in US hospitals is not the reason or the illness that got you in that hospital in the first place. It's HAIs, or hospital-acquired infections. Imagine I go into the hospital with a migraine or for my fibroids, and I leave with sepsis. Why? Healthcare providers are not sanitizing their hands between patients. My team gets to do some really fruitful work in that area. We equip hospitals with Bluetooth low-energy emitting badges that communicate very directly with sanitizing stations. And guess what happens? If a healthcare provider enters a room and fails to accept an opportunity to sanitize, I can set it up that alarms are sounded. And I don't know about you. I would prefer to rely on an automation that sounds an alarm than an overworked healthcare provider who might forget to sanitize their hands. We get to work to make hospitals smart. I had a major surgery a few years ago, and I am fine. And it required an overnight stay in a hospital. So you can imagine I was thrilled as hell to leave or get discharged the next morning from that hospital. And I was discharged by my surgeon at 10 a.m. Would you believe that at 1 p.m. I was still waiting in that hospital? Why? In US hospitals, there is a policy that you have to be wheeled out. They do not want to take the chance you're going to fall on their property and sue them. So they get you to your ride, so you leave. So why was I waiting for hours for my wheelchair when my surgeon discharged me at 10 a.m.? I can tell you, they could not find a wheelchair. The Marriott Hotel, I believe, has about less than 400 beds. The smallest hospitals I work with are 400-bed hospitals. Imagine trying to figure out which room has a free hospital blindly. It would be hard. My company and the work that I do is to tag assets. Wheelchair was what I needed at that time, but what about if it's an IV pump or a respiratory device or a stretcher? We can tell you using Bluetooth low energy sensors that can capture that information, transmit it to the cloud in real time. I can tell you right now that there are 2 wheelchairs sitting in exam 210. So you go there and you get a wheelchair. And that's some of the work that I get to do now, making hospitals smarter using technology. You know, I work on dozens of high-tech programs like those. And the question I am always asking myself is, what if we were using technology more to address challenges in St. Kitts and Nevis? When most people think about technology, they think about the very visual things, right? The Instagram and the TikTok and the Facebook. But what I have come to learn is the most powerful aspects of technology are rarely ever seen. They are rarely ever seen. I'm talking about the API that allows your smart device, that phone you are carrying around in your pocket, to have real-time status and data on the weather that's happening in the background. I'm talking about things like the Federation metadata, including that X509 certificate that makes it safe for you to take your Google credentials, log into a random site over here, and actually feel safe doing so. I'm talking about deep learning models that can comprehend and produce human text. I'm actually talking about seemingly minor programs that affect millions of people every single day, including the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So, St. Kitts and Nevis needs to give more attention to embracing high-tech problem solving. How many years? Next up? All right, you're still with me. So if you've been following along, right? I said 4 points to make tonight, 4 things I want you to remember. So let's touch on the final one, which is I want you to always look back. And year 40 is such a beautiful milestone time to do just that. I want you to look back, but I also want you to then move forward. Who would have imagined that a sister of the soil from up the village, yes, village superstars, who would have imagined that a sister of the soil would be a tech expert juggling contracts today worth millions of US dollars? Who would have imagined that I, on a weekly basis, get to speak with the head of operations of the largest healthcare system in the United States? At the same token, in 1983, who could have imagined that St. Kitts and Nevis would be among the highest, if not still the highest, income-earning country in the ECCU? Look at where we are. And y'all looking real stush tonight, too. Look at where we are. The Marriott Ballroom, nestled on a beachfront property in Frigate Bay, arguably the hub of our entire tourism industry. This was my grandfather's dream. CA Psyche Southwell gets to now live the dream of her grandfather, the Right Honorable CA Paul Southwell. I get to live it, you get to live it, we get to live it. A deep water harbor that can dock 4 cruise ships simultaneously. Let me tell y'all something. I took a cruise to Belize a few years ago. And you could imagine how I kind of stuck up my nose when they tell me I have to get off the ship to get on a boat to get to the port. I said, Belize needs to talk to St. Kitts and Nevis because we're out here doing it. Don't even get me started about Port Zante, sitting on reclaimed land. Can you imagine the ingenuity, the foresight, the bravery it had to take to move on a project like that? Can you imagine? When global trade regulations changed, and I really wanted to avoid saying our favorite N-word, NAFTA, crippled our ability to compete in an industry that had sustained us. Did we stop there? We didn't stop there. We pivoted, and look at us now. So here we are, my friends, in 2023. Can somebody please show me a problem that we cannot solve? What problem can we not solve in 2023? In 2023, we have more resources, more intelligence, more access, more tools, and hence more power to advance solutions that stick and edify the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Those lessons from the past are wonderful teachers. And sometimes you have to look back, then move forward. You have to look back, but then you have to move forward. So, my friends, I want to leave you the same way I came. With this question: what will we do in the next 350,640 hours? What will we do in the next 14,610 days? What will we do in the next 2,087 weeks? What will we do in the next 480 months? What will we do in the next 40 years? How many years? Next up. All right, my friends, I think that is my time, and I believe we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. Thank you so much for your attention.
I think it is truly awe-striking, the fact that we are living in a time that someone only dreamed of. I think it's truly amazing. Another round of applause, please. Ingenuity, foresight, and bravery. I think we have our independence theme for 41. Ingenuity, foresight, and bravery. Show me a problem that we cannot solve. Show me a problem. Miss Southwell, I have more than 3 options. Thank you. Thank you. It is fitting that a fellow injustice and inequality warrior will take the stage now. A true sustainable island state stalwart to give her response to the lecture. Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, and Constituency Empowerment, Dr. the Honorable Joy L. Clark.
I do believe our honored guest and speaker deserves another round of applause for such a provocative, for such a provocative delivery of the Independence 40 mandate to the nation. Thank you, Ms. Psyche Southwell. While I'm happy to adopt the protocol already established, I cannot proceed without acknowledging the presence of Her Excellency Dame Marcella Liburd, the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew, former Prime Minister and Senior Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, whose patronage we started this event some 25 years ago. Good evening, everyone. Indeed, it has been a stellar evening, has it not? This has been a tone-setting night for the Federation. At 40, we are again reminded by this instructive lecture of the infinite possibilities available, not despite our small size, but because of it. The short response to your solid delivery is St. Kitts and Nevis will use all the skills and talent available in our small island to transform the lives of every citizen, every resident. However, as much as I'd like to deliver a 1-minute response, I will do no justice to the quintessential message of transformation you delivered this evening. Let size be our strength. There is potential in smallness. For many of us, it is a customary response when telling a foreigner of the size of St. Kitts and Nevis and the total population, they remark, "Oh, that's a small town where I'm from. You must know everyone." You get that response, right? For many years, we have seen our smallness as a burden. One hurricane wipes out the entire country. too small for scalable projects, too small for major investments. However, it is this very small island that championed early childhood education in the OECS. And it is this very small island state that has the strongest indigenous bank in the OECS. So, smallness has never been and will never be a burden. Thank you for changing the narrative around size. We small, but we talawa. Every so often, we need a reminder of the why. Why? The eradication of poverty, inequalities, and injustices. This will be paramount until all traces of poverty are gone from our society. This mission is the hallmark of a people-centered St. Kitts and Nevis government. Poverty, as she reminded us, is that pervasive, looming threat that permeates every aspect of life. If systematically and equitably addressed using metrics that go way beyond who you know, it will be an issue of the past. Thank you for reminding us of that. And we are particularly pleased with the robust reminder that development options for our federation must be fit for purpose. Therefore, the note that we must develop homegrown, specialized options is quite poignant. The Sustainable Island State Agenda, the vision of our Prime Minister, a mandate accepted and championed by his cabinet, is the hallmark of our homegrown solution. St. Kitts and Nevis, as a sustainable island state, is a sovereign nation where every Kittitian and Nevisian enjoys the benefits of reliable, cost-effective services, homegrown food, year-round industrial activity, and inclusive communities. A sustainable island state is something that every generation deserves, and it speaks to the now and guarantees the same for the future. Can we reach everyone with this audacious and inspiring desire to transform? Yes. And why do I say this so confidently? If a story drops right now on social media, there is a 99.999% probability that everyone in this room knows the person in the story or the cousin of the sister of the aunt of the friend who was walking down the road with the brother of the person in the story eating a patty on 4th Street. Am I wrong? So while reaching the unreachable is possible because of our smallness, we all know that it is the message that is carried. So we must endeavor to package the message of homegrown solutions in the most appetizing and inclusive formats. Thank you for the very grounding story of becoming anything and anyone, especially when you're from this small nation. And you have transformed into about 5 persons in your very illustrious career. I am in awe of what you have done. The importance of training, retraining, upskilling, and mastering your life is an enduring reminder that the power to be rests with every Kittitian and Nevisian. Your words are sobering, a sobering reminder that the world is our oyster, or our wilks, or our conch shell, whatever you want to say, but it is ours. It is ours to master for ourselves. This reminds me of the need to reinforce in every citizen, here and in the diaspora, that we must escape from the limiting beliefs of your place in society, because you're from 68 square miles, transform your country based on a notion of your limitless potential and possibilities. If we divorce ourselves from the limiting beliefs of our size, our history, 40 years, and marry instead the potential of the future, the sustainable future that we can have, we would have swung the pendulum towards success for every Kittitian and Nivision. But we must do this together. Embracing high-tech problem solving, I'm very pleased to confirm that our Prime Minister recently confirmed that his vision for the transformation of St. Kitts and Nevis is premised on digital innovation, and we need your help. Our islands are well positioned to be major beneficiaries of the global technology shifts as AI and big data become the norm. And we must not, and with our Prime Minister, we will not be left behind. We must and will use this technology to refashion a St. Kitts and Nevis radically and equitably for the future. The importance of education as the foundation of possibilities is not lost on us, and really was an appropriate reminder of the required investment in our students if we are to change the world they live in. I must reference that some 10 years ago, there was a decision to place in every child's hand the gateway to the world. It was revolutionary then. It was the start. Now it's being continued. It's our pathway to digital transformation. We must make the world seem less big and grand by offering every child the opportunity to be part of a globally connected world through digital innovation and digital education. Looking back and not hankering for the past, from whence you've come. If you know whence you came, there are absolutely no limitations to where you can go. James Baldwin. Our past leaders, from Bradshaw to Southwell, to Simmons to Douglas, have demonstrated that change must be intentional and it must be audacious, in the words of our speaker. It was an audacious leader who decided that lands must be the rights of our people, these very lands in Frigate Bay. It was also an audacious leader who decided that independence 1983 was a mission to continue. And it certainly was an audacious leader who decided that HIV/AIDS would not be the scourge of our society or our region. Now we have a leader equally audacious, so audacious that he believes that every citizen must live in a just society, a sustainable society. This is leadership that connects with the past, cares about the present, and provides for the future. Our heroes acted out of a selfless desire for us to live well as an independent nation. We must now prove that the St. Kitts and Nevis bequeathed to us by their revolutionary actions is one that we can push for. Equity for all. Justice for all. Psyche, if I may be so informal, but your name is as beautiful and instructive and profound as the message you delivered. We have here in St. Kitts and Nevis all that is needed to be the best versions of ourselves. Should we be wise enough to center justice and equity in policymaking, bold enough to embrace the discomfort of change, daring enough to reimagine an identity of an inclusive, diverse society, open enough to embrace each challenge with the skill and tenacity of our forefathers, smart enough to lean on the strength of the diaspora. For example, our smart hospital will benefit tremendously from your interventions. Mature enough to see past color divides, mindful enough to always remember our heroes who built this nation for us to enjoy, and conscientious enough to build for our collective future. The transformational agenda is a slow, deliberate, teething process to create a society fit for purpose for every citizen now and in the future. It is now our opportunity to fashion a new identity of sustainability, maturity, and resiliency for this generation and future generations. The country we enjoy now was a result of visionary leaders, but intentions and vision must always be scaffolded by action. Prime Minister, as I close, you have now joined the grouping of our country's greatest leaders. Provided for you has been a diverse tapestry of intervention. Policy decisions laid the foundational layer of transformation. From the Buckley's riot to adult suffrage to universal education to the C.A. Paul Southwell industrial site to the transition from sugar to tourism to the first hotel to Marriott to Park Hyatt to laptop programs. It is now your time to act and do so unapologetically as you push for sustainability, maturity, and resiliency. The mandate is clear. At 40, you will lead us to St. Kitts, 50 and beyond. We now look to your leadership for the next age of transformation. Universal health care, extended paternity benefits, the eradication of NCDs, and a digital and creative economy with zero waste. You will do this and much more. But as our excellent lecture reminds us, look back to the soul of our nation builders, learn from them, and boldly create the St. Kitts and Nevis of the next 40 years that emanates from your caring heart. We will do this with you as a people for the good that we can do, always placing country above self. Thank you.
I'm so inspired. I think, how do you feel? Are you inspired? I mean, overwhelming. I feel so proud to have sat here and listened to women, sisters, daughters of the soil. I mean, truly, I am overwhelmed. Miss Southwell, many times we sit in lecture halls and we are bombarded with theory. And it was so astounding for me to see someone who has literally talked the talk. As Dr. Clark said, 5 different lifetimes, 5 different personalities. And as you mentioned that this is about the young people, I could only imagine the identity struggle that they go through. And to sit here as we reflect on our independence and recognize that I can have it all. I can have it all, not just 3, 5 times. I mean, truly, we are at Independence 40, where the potential is limitless. And I want to thank you and thank Dr. Clark for echoing that very true and timely sentiment for a generation on the cusp of so much technology, heritage retention, I mean, very timely. And I want to thank the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office for what they have done here this evening. Truly tremendous. At this point, all of us will have an opportunity to engage with Ms. Southwell and possibly answer that question that I asked when we started. Why are you here? Why did you come? What is it you want now? How can Ms. Southwell help you? And at this point, I'm going to invite her back on the stage with me. And if you have a question, you can approach any of the microphones and we will hear your question. We'll take 2 at a time and then Ms. Southwell will respond. Don't all rush at once.
Good evening. Well, I intended to be somewhere in the middle, but I guess I'm number one. Just want to commend you on your presentation tonight. Succinct, short, but impacting.
Thank you.
You spoke about looking back, moving forward, and today, we are living the dream of those that went before us. Our present Prime Minister has advanced the dream of a more equitable creation, building, and distribution of wealth, generational and sustainable wealth. Can you tell us how that dream fits into your presentation tonight? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. And for anybody else coming, I like to address people by their names. So please identify yourself as well.
I'm sorry. Austin, Edinburgh.
Austin, Edinburgh. Okay. Thank you so much for that question. To be honest, so there are 2 approaches. What you mentioned sounded a bit socialist as opposed to progressive. And I'm a huge proponent of progressive policies when it comes to distributing wealth. I think when the electorate places implicit trust in the elects, they have a responsibility to deliver on those promises. And if poverty is still, I think the rate that we are seeing now is 1 in 5 kitchens. So it means if you look to your neighbors, 1 person on that row could be experiencing poverty. And we know that it is the greatest threat, like I said, to growth, development, and sustainability. It is a government's responsibility to take the wealth of our nation and redistribute it. And when I say that, I made a very clear point that we shouldn't define poverty solely as a lowness of income. In my opinion, the question we need to be asking people is what is preventing you from living a life that you see and deem dignified? It might be money, but you give money to somebody else that doesn't have a physical ability. It might be a different experience. And to echo again this notion of being small, we can ask. I have led qualitative research studies with people larger than the population of the poor in St. Kitts. So we can do it too. Ask them. So yes, I agree that we should incorporate a progressive policy that attempts to redistribute wealth. We are a high-income earning country, which means the government can use that resources to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to advance by removing barriers from their lives. And you mentioned this term, intergenerational, and nothing offends me more than intergenerational poverty. And the fact that we know today is that if you are born poor, you have a 50% likelihood of staying poor. If that isn't an argument for an intervention by the government, I don't know what else is. So.
Good night, everyone. Destiny Morris, Sadler
Miss
Secondary
Morris.
School. If you were to be offered the position of an advisor to the Prime Minister, what advice would you offer him on enhancing our social programs presently being used, especially in schools?
Fantastic question. Well, let me first say I am always willing to be of service to my federation. So call on me anytime. But as it relates to social programs rather, especially in school, it is an undeniable fact that education is one of the best vehicles we have to social advancement, to getting over poverty. So investing in our children, and it might sound kind of cliched, is one of the best things that we can do. So ensuring that they have a quality education. Like I was a part of the SELF program, right? And got to sit 9 CXC subjects. If my mother couldn't afford 9 subjects, should I be denied the opportunity to do all of those? So we need to make those things available. I've heard about like a laptop program in schools, and a laptop program is a good idea if the issue is just access to technology. But are students also being taught how to capitalize the use of those? Are we teaching our young girls in particular how to code in Python, the sexy programming language of the time? Are we teaching you how to properly engage with chatbots like ChatGPT? How do you ask the right questions to get the answers that you need? How do you actually rely on this technology? And if we don't incorporate the use of the tools in our curriculum, whether or not a Caribbean Examination Council decides we need to test on that, it needs to be a part of our curriculum as well too.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Tiana Williams from the Nevis Sixth Form College. And my question to you, Ms. Southwell, is what was it like breaking through in an industry dominated by men? And what are your words of encouragement for young women in the STEM field in the Federation, as I am one who wants to be a software engineer as well?
Oh my goodness, that warms my heart. Let's talk after Tiana. Yes, I feel like, oh my gosh. We need girls. We need our girls to learn how to program. We need our girls to be learning how to program from elementary school. Build something small. So what has it been like? It's been an interesting dynamic. The company that I work at right now, I was, I think, the 4th woman hired and the first Black body working in that company. The first. In 2023. That's offensive. That's offensive to my sensibilities. But I would actually credit my roots and foundation here in St. Kitts for the attitude and audaciousness in which I walk into doors. I grew up, literally grew up around Black excellence. It's not foreign to me. So what I do, there's a lot of terms all the time we're talking about things like imposter syndrome. The thing I don't like about terms like that is they focus on the individual as having a failing when it is the structures that are failing the individuals. So yes, Tiana, learn how to code, become a software engineer. You're going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you're going to make a lot of money too. I mean, I'm just saying, tech is where it is. So walk into those doors boldly, go in confidently, knowing that you've built your competencies and nobody could stop you.
Thank you.
Yes, all the girls are coming up. Yeah.
Hello, good night. My name is Arella Buchanan. You spoke to some degree about bridging the technological device. As a fifth-form student of the Virtuous High School, what advice would you give to the government to bridge this device or gap?
To be honest, we need to start teaching programming in schools, even if it's just an optional programming class, optional thing you can do after school to start. And I would recommend teaching Python. This is the language of the moment, is one of the easier language to adopt. And the interesting thing about that particular language or learning any programming language is what you learn is how to think like a programmer. That is the most important thing that you would actually do, thinking like a programmer. I was speaking with a man earlier today, and he was telling me, I learned all the languages that make sense, because once you learn one, you could learn any other one. I was formally trained in Java, and I have never had to write Java code at any of the positions that I've held. The first one used Python and a language I had never even heard of called Lua. And I just adapted because once you learn to think like a programmer, you'd be able to adjust and move forward. So embrace opportunities. And if I might even add, you don't have to wait for the government or a program to do something. I know all of y'all that's be on YouTube all the time. There are YouTube courses that you can start just taking and learning on your own and build something small like a calculator. Start training even on your own. But thank you so much, Miss, for that question.
Good night, everyone. My name is Zakia Maynard from the Charles Email Secondary School. And as a student, I believe that it is very important for internet access to be in all schools in our federation. Ms. Southwell, I would love for you to help me encourage our Prime Minister and Ministry of Education to make internet accessibility in schools an immediate priority. This is a matter of urgency.
Out of the mouths of our youth. Wait, Akia, you mean to tell me all of the schools don't have internet access right now? Coming, it's coming. Your Honorable Prime Minister just said it's coming.
It's coming?
It's coming.
Okay.
All right, so that's a promise, because it's on a global stage right now. It's recorded.
Yes.
Yes,
so we have
yes.
proof of
Yes,
the promise.
there you go. Hold him to it.
Thank you.
Good night. My name is Cameron O'Day, and I'm a student at the Washington Archibald High School. And I would like to know how you would go about incorporating artificial intelligence into St. Kitts workforce.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yes, cheer her on. It's a really good question. And there's a lot of debate about AI and whether this is a positive thing or a negative thing. But here's the thing. It's here to stay. Those models are good and they are getting better. So it's not a matter of whether or not you should start embracing it. It's that you should. And how do you go about doing that? So I believe there are responsible ways to engage with ChatGPT. For example, that's one of the more popular ones, right? You can do things like have it edit the grammar in your paper, right? A paragraph. And one of the things people often don't realize is you could actually ask ChatGPT to give me a step-by-step explanation of any recommendations you made. I remember being in Mr. Stevens' math classes, right? And sometimes I would get home and I was like, gosh, I can't remember what he said about solving this calculus problem. Imagine now, you can go to ChatGPT and say, solve this problem and give me a step-by-step explanation of the solution. You have a 24-hour teaching aid at your disposal. Why would we not embrace and use that? So yes, those are a couple ways you could definitely go about doing that, but use it to enhance your schoolwork. And they need to get on the internet in order to use it, okay, Honorable Prime Minister, so make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night. I don't need you to say your name, Mr. Brown.
All right. I'd like to congratulate you on your speech tonight. The presentation was really good. We go way back.
Way back.
And based on what you said, I am first of all experienced about getting exposed. In 1997, we both went to the US on a conference. And we were able to meet other Caribbean persons and also persons from other countries in the world. And that opened up a lot of experiences and a lot of thought. My rebuttal, based on what you said today, there's one area I feel that is left out in the independence theme this year, And it was only said, and I wrote this before, it was only said by Dr. Clark, which is country above self. One nation bound together. And I think that is what is missing from anything in the celebration. We see what's going on with crime, we see what's going on with youth and how they're using their time and so forth. So I think that's one thing that was left out, embracing country above self. And as it relates to your first statement, is our thrust to be the world's biggest small nation, forgetting to take the people along with it, right? We stop valuing what the red and the green in the flag means. And I think we are poor because we want to pay more attention to be paid to be on a National Development Committee or board. People want to be paid to serve the country when it is that we should be serving the country that accepts us. You can't, if you don't have a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, then where are you going to go? Who is going to accept you? And I find that the expats, the economic citizens, and the CBI holders, passport holders, are celebrating their Kittitianness more than we are. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Obari. So a lot to unpack there, right? And if it hadn't been explicitly said, undoubtedly, our greatest resource is our people. We are absolutely nothing about that without that. So the human well-being of our people is crucial. And one of the things I would tell you even about like the world that I work in, the main reason why I was able to advance so quickly, there are engineers with computer science degrees from Ivy League universities who I can beat out. Why? Because when I sit down, whether it is with the head of operations for the entire US healthcare system, the largest one, or a nurse manager at a local hospital, a biomed engineer, an engineer working with a company, I prioritize human connection first. That's how you build trust. And that's how I get them to listen to me, your sister of the soil, from St. Kitts and Nevis, with an accent that they always tend to talk about. People remember how you make them feel. So yes, I think we need to absolutely prioritize people and contributing to our nation without even expectation. But can both happen? Absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks for reminding us about that, for sure.
Sorry. Okay. Good night. My name is Joy Williams, and first, I'd like to make it clear that I do not believe that being a Black woman is an obstacle, but with where I would like to go when I'm older, it would actually present to be an obstacle. So my question is what motivated you to keep on learning and reinventing yourself despite the obstacles that being a Black woman imposed?
You know, one of the things I love the most about technology and working as in software programming, it is a competency-based, not credentially-based field. It is about what you can do. The last team I built at the AI company that I worked with for 2 years, I built a team of 5 women, the largest team of women in the entire company. I hired more women engineers than anybody else. You could be that change. But here's the thing about that team. One of those women was a Duke University computer science graduate who worked at Walt Disney. She worked on my team. I had another woman. She was an Army veteran, mother of 5, never went to college, decided to learn later in her life as her kids were growing that she wanted to program. She worked on my team. And those 2 people did the exact same job, the same role. Because guess what? competencies matter. So when you secure your knowledge and your ability to solve problems using tech tools, nobody can stop you. Of course, there's going to be those people, right, who can prevent barriers to even getting in the door. But you can be a force as long as you establish your competencies. You would find a space for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Representing the young men.
Good night. My name is Adrian Wilkin. I'm from the Virtuous High. I would like to ask you about you saying in your presentation about crime being a negative identifier of our small federation. How instrumental is computer technology in helping the government response to crime?
Thank you, Mr. Wilkin. Great question. The thing is, right, technological tools can provide information that allows you to help solve crimes. So whether it is adding additional cameras in a place, using scientific technology to get fingerprinting and to do things like that, technology can absolutely help to inform and enforce like that entire facet of like our Kittitian and Nivision like experience. So embracing technology more, absolutely. I'm definitely not a specialist in crime, but I would say, I know even in my own like community, we have cameras that are constantly streaming data at hotspot areas to ensure that at least when these crimes happen. But the thing I would want to say that we really need to focus on is why are these crimes happening in the first place? So the best way to solve that problem is not just addressing it after it happens, but understanding what is driving and what's the underpinning factor for the high and growing crime rates in St. Kitts and Nevis. And when we do that, we can truly get to solutions.
I have another question.
Bring it.
Would you say a lack of technology is a result of high crime rate in St. Kitts and Nevis?
That the lack of technology
Yeah.
is the result of crime or is causing crime?
Causing.
I wouldn't say that, no. Not at all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Hi, good night. My name is Serena of the Charleston Secondary School. I have two questions. What would you do if you were a fifth former now with 40 more years in mind in the area of tech?
Learn Python. I'd start learning it right now.
As a fifth form student with an interest in cooking, do you have any tips for how I can utilize tech to enrich myself?
You said an interest in what?
Tech.
In cooking, no? What is it?
Yeah.
In cooking? Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. So right now, like a lot of people talk about, those of us like living out in the diaspora and whatnot. But right now, the world is your oyster. I would start recording me cooking. Look at people like Tabitha Brown, who late in her life, through a single video that went viral of her sharing her enjoyment of a sandwich. If you could showcase some delicacy or some specialty from St. Kitts and present that to the world, that could give you the platform that you need to reach a really global audience and really kind of kick off your entire career as a chef. If that's your dream.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Good evening. Did I say my name?
For the people.
For the people.
Family.
Okay. Family, Gleneva Sargent. One of the things that I see a lot that happens within the Caribbean, not so much in the United States, that older people like, oh, tech is for young people. Tech is for young people. Henry Kissinger learned to operate WhatsApp and TikTok and stuff like that at 90. He made 100 a couple months ago. What would you say to encourage people of a certain age that technology can actually help you, whether around the home, your everyday life, going to the doctor, getting that information. Because it's very hard to tell an older person, they're like, my head too hard, I can't do that. That's for young people. Let me just get a young person. So just get your input on that.
Of course. It's so funny. Since being announced as the lecture series, I've constantly heard myself being described as young. Which in the tech world, I am kind of ancient at my age because we have all these young 20-year-olds who are coming in and doing and taking over everything, right? But I was actually driving with somebody today, and he said the same thing. He's like, my phone is just for answering calls and sending messages on WhatsApp. And then I started probing him a little bit, and then I found out, he'd have used GPS. He's like, he runs a role or has a role where he's required to be on time all the time. He uses his calendar to get prompts, alerts before each one of those meetings. And the more we talked, he listed about 15 different applications he's currently using in his everyday. So I think when we convince our people, no matter what age you are, that technology can actually make your life easier, I think that will be the selling point.
Good evening. My name is Owen Telmack. I'm from the Charleston Secondary School of Nevis. And you did speak about tracing back your roots, establishing yourself, especially here in Nevis. So my question is, how do you think returning uni graduates should approach the workforce in St. Kitts Nevis, especially if it's in an area that hasn't really been properly developed? As a university graduate yourself?
Yeah, well, you've heard me, right? There were like several areas, even talking about fashion. No one really talked about that as much, but I saw a gap and I filled it. So actually nothing stops you because software is so easy to stand up. Cost-wise, it is easy to stand up, especially if technology is the area that you're interested in. You don't need somebody to create that opportunity for you. If you follow from some of the examples that I did, is I actually started doing the work, and guess what? People came. Sometimes it takes a little bit more of an effort to get people on board. But I will also add this: don't feel confined by the boundaries of St. Kitts and Nevis. Today, I physically live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I work in Krakow, Poland. That's where my company is based. I have customers in London, in every state in the US, in Germany. The FIFA World Cup was my customer. So wherever it's happening, that's where I'm working as well. So global boundaries don't have to get in your way. We have people in my company working in China, working in India, working in Poland, working in Warsaw, Poland. The boundaries, they don't mean anything anymore in a digital world. If you can establish that you have competencies and could add value to a company, who's going to stop you, sir?
And so my question for that is, how do I gain their attention, especially those big companies, Target, all those big companies? I'm in a small place. I've just started. And so actually, a couple of years, even if I had a couple of years, how do I get their attention?
You put yourself out there. I mentioned that Marriott Global, for example, was one of my biggest partners. You know how I got that partnership? I was invited by the local company hotel. They were like, hey, you want to come by and shoot some pictures here? So that would be considered just a trade relationship. I came in there and they were like, yeah, we would love to use your pictures. So I took those pictures and guess what happened? Marriott Global's corporate office was like, oh, she looks like our brand and we want to feature her. So they reached out via the local PR company for that hotel. So put yourself out there. In a digital world, it is so much easier to do that. So instead of just scrolling through the TikTok, at the Facebook, at the Instagram, posting and contributing and actually building your own content, and it can be seen as long as you build branded content that's literally designed to attract the people that you want to see your work.
And so would you think that we have an advantage? I would say we have an advantage as beginners, especially as locals, And what are some advantages that we have?
You're in a smaller space. So if you're presenting something that is uniquely Kittitian, that's of interest to the world, you can stand out.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Danique Williams of the Bastyr High School. Really loved everything that you said tonight. What stood out most was that which you mentioned relating to the hospitals and how we can improve health by knowing what we have available or unavailable through the use of technology. As a daughter of the soil, are you in a position to assist our local hospitals so we can improve our health system and experience better health care?
Well, thank you for that question. Like I told our Honorable Prime Minister early, I am at your service. I have the time. Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Southwell. My name is Shada Glassford, and my question for this evening is, what are some of the obstacles that you encountered whilst managing your various career paths simultaneously? For example, your fashion designing, hospitality work, and your photography. How did you successfully manage all of them?
It's a good question, right? Good question about balance. The thing is, in each phase or journey that I've taken, I only prioritized one thing at a time. And when I started, like Economy of Style, it was a hobby. It was a hobby until the first year when my income earned double that of a faculty salary at a Research One institution. And that's when I said, okay, it's time to maybe pay a little bit more attention there. And then same way, now that I'm working in tech, I'm not as actively taking contracts and doing work like on my blog. And I'm actually, and you'll be the first to know, working on a different project that I'm launching from Economy of Style, which is a podcast that is going to be presenting bite-sized content to ensure that women are aware that we in tech and we belong there too.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Heiliger. I'm not here to ask a question, but rather argue about the use of artificial intelligence within schools.
Bring it on, Tiffany. Take your time, take your time.
Okay. Yes, artificial intelligence would give us responses us students would never think about. But isn't it unfair to the teachers? For example, today in physics, we were given an assignment and I knew nothing about it. So I went on ChatGPT. And I got the answers, yes, but there was the teacher trying to explain or whatever, but I am not learning, I am just getting answers.
Is that it? Thank you so much. I'm really glad that Tiffany asked that question, right? Because one of the things I want to always advocate is that we use these tools responsibly. Everybody, one of my biggest criticisms in some ways I've always had about our educational system in St. Kitts and Nevis, even though it was one that I could do really well in, everybody doesn't learn the same way. Everybody doesn't learn the same way. Not everybody can sit in a class and pay attention to a teacher talking. And one of the things you said is that the teacher was teaching and you weren't grasping it. So aren't you then grateful that you could actually ask ChatGPT to provide the solution? But what you should also ask ChatGPT to do is provide the solution and give me a step-by-step explanation of how you got it. Would you then learn from that to be able to do that problem the next time on your own? Absolutely. So the point is this can be a tool that actually is a supplement to what you are learning or not learning in school. And let me tell you something about being unfair to teachers. You know who are some of the primary users of ChatGPT right now? Creating their lessons plans and the like.
Good evening, Mrs. Southwell. Miss Southwell, I apologize. I'd just like to firstly say that hearing you speak is such a dream. My name is Jamie Peets. I am ambassador number 3 in this year's St. Kitts and Nevis Queen pageant. My platform that I am promoting is Bridging the Gender Gap in STEM, and I truly admire that you are a woman in STEM yourself. I'd like to know, what can the government do to increase more women in STEM?
Show examples of women in STEM and the opportunities that they have. You know, one of the things that inspired me to even get into this, and it's not just this, but I was at a moment where I wanted to change, and I saw a Black woman. She was a political science undergraduate major like at NYU, and she said she sat down and learned how to code and was making over $250,000 in the fintech industry. And I was like, wait, what? Oh, you can do that? You can actually go into tech without having a computer science degree? Oh, it's just about learning this programming language? Sometimes when people see things, they can be inspired to do things. So I think seek out examples of women out there that are doing tech, and we have more here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So let's showcase them and seek it when you don't see them here as well too.
Thank you so much.
And good luck.
Thank you.
We need you.
Good night, Miss Southwell. My name is Kelsey Edred.
Sorry.
Fine. You said that you taught a university class. I want to become a teacher, and I was just wondering, how did you keep your huge class? Like,
how do I keep my what? Sorry, the last part.
Yep, huge class.
How do I keep my?
How do you
huge...
keep them like following?
Interested?
Yeah, interested.
It's so funny. So I've taught primarily graduate courses, right? And I often went into classes. Oh wow, we have a line forming. One of the things again, right? Any classroom that I entered, my goal and my focus was always on my students building competencies, leaving that class, being able to know how to do things. So if I was teaching a social policy class, I don't want you just researching a social policy to research a social policy. I'm teaching you a methodology for researching social policies, a technique that you could use no matter where you go. Actually, even outside of the field. And all of my class assignments were designed to produce things that you would actually be required to produce on the job. So by making things real life applicable, I had a way of engaging students. And I think I'm pretty cool, so I was kind of fun in the classroom. They liked me a lot. Thank you.
I am so happy to see the students so engaged and inspired. The lines are closed, so once we have these questions, that will be it for the question and answer segment.
Good night, Miss Southwell. I'm Kadeen Allen from Immaculate Conception Catholic School. You spoke about the creative economy and entrepreneurship. You also said we small but tallow. In such a small place, how can we succeed when so many persons engage in similar product lines? How can we make them stand out?
Wow. You know, when I think about like all the beauty product companies and stuff that are evolving here, each one has an opportunity to do something big. That industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. So I think we are small, yes, here, but if we start breaking down barriers, right, to exporting outside of the country, you have a world of an audience like at your fingertips. But of course, we live in the world of Amazon where at 8 o'clock in the morning, I could order something and at 2 p.m. it's in my house. People don't like to wait. So if we can make sure we have a certain kind of infrastructure to allow for shipping things out, then you could expand your customer base even outside of the country. But of course, there's also space for everybody. Your product might stand out and be unique. There are like thousands of different natural hair products, for example, and they're all doing really well because they tap into their audience. So I think you still have opportunity there, despite there being a growing pool of people. Thank you for the question.
Good evening. Oh, well, I have a question for you. My question is, you mentioned artificial intelligence is taking over the world, right? So my question is, certain things artificial can't really do. So like, wouldn't that put out humans out of a job? Certain areas of that we go to school for, wouldn't that put us out of a job? So wouldn't we have anything to do? I don't know, I'm just asking a question.
Thank you so much. That's a very reasonable question. And a lot of times, especially when I was working in AI, we had upper-level executives making the decision to hire my company to automate like tasks that their workers would do. So sometimes I would have to sit down with the person who was actually doing the job. And I would get a lot of like pushback, right? One of the things I would always convince them is, we're not here to replace your job. We are here to help you do your job better. One of the things that AI could do is replace tacit knowledge. Can you imagine if you always had to go ask Miss So-and-so how to do X, Y, and Z? But if we had that where a bot could answer it, it could make days move faster. And the thing I would always argue and say is, when we could automate, because AI and these chatbots could only automate things that are standard. Anything that has a but, if, and then, when, why, we can't automate that. So the point is to automate the mundane tasks so you can focus on doing the things that you actually specialize and uniquely specialized to do. So I don't see it as replacing jobs, but enhancing your ability to do your job well.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize, but we have to pause to allow for the participants from Nevis to take their leave. And then after, we'll provide an opportunity for Ms. Southwell to take the remaining questions. All right, so we pause to allow for the Nevis students to leave. While that is happening, I invite Safia Gishard to come to this area along with the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew to present the gifts to the lecturer.
All right, good evening to all. I see the students are leaving. Can we ask, because I think it's only right that we see that our presenter is presented well and be given thanks. So just give her the respect of a few more minutes, and then I would allow you to leave. Just excuse me, Madam Moderator. I want to say to her, because she presented and she shared a lot with you. And we just want to show her our gratitude together. I have known Psyche for a very long time. We were in school together. I know her intellectual capacity, but I think I saw more of her personality today because she was quite quiet in school. But I would also say that the field that she's in, and I want to speak for 1 minute, no more than that. One, somebody asked if women do coding. I would like to say that my foundation did 2 courses for girls in coding, and I know you know that lady she is from Silicon Valley, who wrote a book about girls in coding, and she actually came to St. Kitts and worked with my foundation to introduce girls in coding. And so we are pursuing that. In addition to that, it is going to be the policy that coding is introduced in school. So I wanted to mention that. The second thing is we have 8,000 laptops. And the thing that you presented, Psyche, is that these laptops should be fit for purpose. They are going to have educational programs on them. And presently, we are running the fiber optic to all schools in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so they will not only have computers, but they will have the band on which we can propel the internet and all of them have access. So that is presently being built. The third one, every health center and every hospital in St. Kitts will have fiber optic, and that is going to complete by March of 2024, and it's ongoing right now. So that also will be completed. And I know there was a student who asked. And then finally, I would say that in fighting crime, and what this brought to my attention tonight is that we need a symposium on crime. But I can say tonight that you spoke about artificial intelligence and the introduction of tech in solving problems. We have established over the last few weeks a fusion center, and we are using AI to map St. Kitts and to map criminal activity. So we are introducing tech to solve the issue of crime from that perspective. So I wanted to introduce that as well. And all that is premise, of course, on developing our sustainable island state, and technology will be the center of it, and all of our people will have access to tech. So when you think of St. Kitts and Nevis, I want you to think, one, St. Kitts and Nevis has the oldest active political party in the English-speaking Caribbean. So we are known for that. Two, we have one of the highest education levels in the whole of the Caribbean, if not the world. Three, we have one of the highest penetration of access to technology in the world. Four, we have income that, if distributed well, will put us among the higher income, or at least middle-high income of the world. Five, we have one of the best vaccination rate and elimination of infectious diseases in the world. And six, yes, I have to point them out, because we have to know how we are going to define ourselves. And so we don't have to define ourselves by the negativity that all country has, but by the positivity that we do have. So I will stop at 5, since somebody say I am going on to the others. For our small size, we have produced a netball team that was Caribbean champion and number 5 in the world among countries like Australia, India, Great Britain, and one of the players is here tonight. For our small size, we have provided a world champion sprinter in the person of Kim Collins. So I just want to simply say that we have a lot of things that we have contributed to the world, not in spite of, but probably because of our small size. And I do agree when you say that our small size makes all of these things possible. Thank you very much, Psyche. And I want to take the opportunity to present her with this beautiful gift. I don't know if I should unveil it. Is it that I should unveil it? No, okay, they told me no, but I say it's a beautiful gift that is, of course, from St. Kitts and Nevis, your beautiful country. And each time I'm looking for a speaker, our people come to the top, not because they're from St. Kitts and Nevis, but really because of their merit to be among the best to be able to present at these series. So congratulations once again. Right, second hold is, you're going to present her with this. Is this for me? Is that recipe here for her? All right. And these are from St. Kitts as well.
We thank our reigning national queen for her assistance of the Prime Minister. At this point, I want to let the students who are in line know that we will arrange for Ms. Southwell to take your questions, okay?
we will ensure that happens. At this point, we invite Takayla Hart Johnson, the reigning talented teen queen, to bring us the vote announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and honored members of our community, good evening, and thank you for coming to this year's Prime Minister's lecture featuring the indomitable Miss Psyche Southwell. We have had the privilege of listening to an inspiring and thought-provoking address on the topic, Growing Sustainably, Developing Maturely, Building Resiliency, Independence 40. And it is my honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of all those present here this evening. First and foremost, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mrs. Solincia Levine, our esteemed chairperson, for stirring this evening's event with grace and poise. A special word of thanks goes to Ms. Tiana Bowery, pastor of the Molyneux Wesleyan Holiness Church, for initiating our proceedings with a heartfelt prayer. Your words did set a tone of reflection and gratitude that we carried with us throughout this event. We are immensely grateful for Mrs. Patricia Martin, who introduced our distinguished guest speaker, Miss Psyche Southwell, with eloquence and warmth. Your words painted a vivid picture of Miss Southwell's accomplishments, and we appreciate your role in setting the stage for her enlightening lecture. Miss Psyche Southwell, your lecture this evening has been a true revelation. Your insights into sustainable growth, maturity, and resilience have left an indelible mark on all of us. Your journey from St. Kitts and Nevis to becoming a renowned software engineer and fashion blogger in the United States is a testament to the limitless possibilities that await those who dare to dream. Your dedication to sharing your knowledge and experiences is a gift to us all. We would also like to extend our gratitude to Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clark for your insightful response to Ms. Southwell's lecture. Your perspective has added depth to our understanding of the critical issues raised this evening. I would also like to extend our thanks to Honorable Dr. Terence Drew for hosting this incredible, important event. We need more events like this to assist in shaping us as young people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We are also grateful to Shafia Geshad, National Carnival Queen of 2022, for her assistance this evening. Many thanks must also be extended to the organizing committee of this event, led by Ms. Sharon Rattan and assisted by Mr. Krios Freeman, Mr. Javon Liebert, and Ms. Dinala Laplace. A special thank you to you two, the audience, for being here. We appreciate you and your participation this evening. Let us all leave here today with renewed dedication to the principles of sustainability, maturity, and resilience as we work together to build a better future for our beloved St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
As we close, the Prime Minister's office cannot be highlighted enough for its effort towards this venture here tonight, and regarding in general the activities organized to mark the 40th celebration of independence. People cannot go forth without an appreciation from whence they have came, coupled with the assessment of the current state of affairs and a view of prospects for the future. Undoubtedly, the Prime Minister's lecture series has accomplished all these things tonight and has facilitated a multifaceted exercise that can be said to have given us a good assessment of where we are and where we're going. I want to thank the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas for the part he played in the inception of this activity that we celebrate today in its 25th edition. Sorry. I want to also commend former Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, for continuing in the legacy that we celebrate. And Dr. Drew, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, our noble Prime Minister, for his continued support. And I look forward to see where you take this lecture series in the future. Miss Southwell was an excellent choice, and the future is only brighter from here. The significance of independence celebrations cannot be over-exaggerated. Miss Psyche Southwell has called upon us to challenge what we have been told, and we will rise to the occasion. I want to point out that she is the fourth woman to present over these 25 years. And as we saw droves of young ladies take the mic today, we cannot underscore what it means to have representation. And again, I want to commend the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew and the SKN government for their strides towards the promotion of women. On his right, on his left, we see the tangible example of what women can do. I speak on behalf of all of us gathered here when I say that indeed we are inspired. I asked the question at the start, and I stand here confident that we will continue to thrash against stereotypes as we attempt to move forward. Ms. Southwell has taken the traditional and infused it with the new, and we have a clear path, and I want that. I want that, and I'm going to leave here inspired. The organizing committee, chaired by Ms. Sharon Rattan, and all her teammates, I want to let you guys know that it was a phenomenal activity, and you are commended highly for all of your efforts. With that said, I want to thank all of us for being here and for participating in what has been a truly inspiring evening. Thank you all. We're going to stand shortly for the departure of the Governor General, but first, I want to inform you of two things. One, we have established some photography protocols, so please do not leave. Members of cabinets and dignitaries, we will have some photos with our featured speaker. And students, after the Governor General takes her leave, you will be served snacks on the outside, and we will do so in as orderly a fashion as we can. Students. All right, so on that note, we all stand for the departure of the Governor General. Dr. Drew, Honorable Dr. Drew, Ms. Southwell, we begin the photos. Thank you all and be safe.